I read in your description that you teach students from 15 different countries, if I'm right, of your experience. Okay. So, do learners from different cultures struggle with English differently, or are the problems mostly the same?
Different. There's a few mistakes that all kinds of learners make, and number one would be research. But the points of difference, right? One thing that I find in Indian students, I think like this is something that Indian students always miss.
Yes, even I have noticed this a lot in Indians, especially this fear of making mistakes. So, do you think this is universal or it is more in certain cultures? Because yeah, and many learners believe that childhood is the best age to learn a language. So, from your experience, do you agree? Do you also train children for spoken English?
Yeah.
Okay, so if a learner has just 20 minutes a day, how should they use it to improve spoken English? What do you recommend? So, what habits separate fast English learners from slow learners, regardless of age, culture, or country? Okay. So now coming to the main question, do accents really matter or is fluency more important in real life communication? Okay. How can learners improve pronunciation without feeling insecure or ashamed about their accent? And another question is how to get rid of MTI. Would you recommend the same thing like keep improving your? Yes. Okay. So, what is one truth about learning English that textbooks never say, but learners really need to hear? Okay. Good afternoon. How are you doing?
I am great. Thanks for bringing me on. And my day is going as planned so far. I don't know if you know about my schedule because I keep talking about it on my YouTube, but my middle hours are free. So this is the best time to have a conversation.
Oh, is it? Oh, no, I had no idea. So I think you're busy most of the day taking classes, is it?
Yeah, my evenings and my mornings are loaded with lessons, but my middle hours, I have it for myself. I study, I chill, so I can have the session now.
That's great. Okay, so let's dive straight into the introduction part because I know very little about you. I just went through the description to know a bit more about you, but I would love to hear it from you. So we'll start with introduction.
100%. So I am Richa, a live creator on YouTube. The reason you're listening to me today is because I do a lot of communication stuff online, keeping English at the center of it all. And I recently entered the live streaming space on YouTube. So I've been giving lessons live and I love the energy. Besides, ma'am, I love playing chess.
Wow. So,
I've seen you on YouTube.
oh, okay. So is English your native language?
No, it's not. I speak Hindi as my first language.
Okay, you got a great command over the accent because I've seen a lot of people speak in an accent, but it doesn't sound natural. But you've got a good command on your accent. So, how did you develop this accent? I'm sure you must have been asked this question so many times, isn't it?
Yeah, totally expecting it. First of all, really appreciate that. Like my accent journey probably started a lot before I remember. But what I remember is sixth grade. That was the year
Okay.
which was my turning point. Sixth grade, yes. That was my turning point. I happened to find some friends who were Americans, my age group. It was a total accident. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? I wasn't planning to become friends with them, but my cousins were studying in the US at that time. So
Mm-hmm.
they kind of got us in touch and we really vibed together. So we talk every single day, but that was just the start of it. I've maintained my accent since then. But yeah, that was the point when my interest for perfecting my pronunciation and accent, overall communication just heightened. I never took it off.
That's great. So, where are you from in India?
I am from Jharkhand
Okay.
and I live in Ranchi, the capital city.
Okay, so I have a list of questions that I would like to ask you. So we'll just go into the questions part now. So, okay, I read in your description that you teach students from 15 different countries, if I'm right.
I have done it,
You have
not
done
in
it.
one time, but yeah, that's
Yes,
part of my
yes, but
experience.
yeah, altogether it was a part of your experience. Okay. So, do learners from different cultures struggle with English differently, or are the problems mostly the same?
Yeah, that is a very broad question. I mean, yes, people have different kind of accents, they have different kind of problems, but these problems are not very different altogether. If you take, a bird eye view, it's not so different. There's a few mistakes that all kinds of learners make, and number one would be research, in my opinion. Most people who meet me, they come to my lessons with zero research or self-assessment. So as a student, I do feel like you need to assess your own level first, try to get to the core of in today's time, but they forget to neutralize their mother tongue first. That is how it goes. It's a ladder. You cannot just, skip the process, get to the goal. You really need to neutralize your mother tongue and get rid of the mother tongue influence, work on your pronunciation, all in all. Only then will you be able to tap that level of American accent or the UK accent. But the points of difference, right? One thing that I find in Indian students, I think like this is something that Indian students always miss, is repetition. I teach some people from Europe, Eastern and Western both, and I see that those people are more open to speaking in conversations. They're more open to being out there and initiating a conversation as compared to Indian students. Indian students are like, no, I'm gonna be in my shell. That is
Yes.
definitely a point of difference that I notice. And it's not about Indians in India, ma'am. It's about Indians abroad as well.
Mm.
Like Indian Americans, Indian Canadians, they would have the exact same story that they're going to tell you. And I have a lot of experience, so I get to hear stories from both sides. And this is not a good thing. Honestly, it makes me sad because most of the people that I meet, they're like standing at the threshold of something so good, but they're not pushing themselves enough. They're standing at the gates of it, yeah, but they're not pushing themselves enough to get through. If you open up more, try to speak in English and repeat the same skill over and over, you would be confident, you would be fluent, and you would be articulate. That is what it takes.
Yes, even I have noticed this a lot in Indians, especially this fear of making mistakes. So, do you think this is universal or it is more in certain cultures? Because I've seen in other cultures, people do not concentrate much on making mistakes and they're not scared. They don't have that fear factor when they speak English. So, do you agree or do you have a different point of view?
I think I generally agree with what you're saying. I mean, if I'm teaching a native of France, they don't care about the accent as much. I mean, they want to improve their accent, but they're not going to make it their life's purpose. They're not going to be emotional about the goal. You know what I mean? Indians tend to be emotional with this goal. That is a big point of difference. But the good thing is that we have more people wanting to improve their English spoken skills in India than any other country at this point. This is what I've
Mm.
noticed. So as an Indian, you actually have an edge over Europeans or, South Americans because you have more people who are in the on there who are on the same boat as you, who are trying to achieve the same goals as you. So it's not about becoming friends with everybody, but then you get the same energy. You can find people who would want to do this journey with you. And in
Mm.
other countries, for example, the Western side of the world, yes, they're not so bothered because I've heard ambassadors from, for example, Spain speaking with the same Spanish accent. I guess they don't care, which is good. You know what I'm saying? We should have more accepted English accents. It shouldn't just be like the six accents from the six English speaking countries of the world. There should be more for sure. But I wouldn't say they don't want to improve because improving takes a lot. And they're like, no, I'm not going to give that much to it. Yeah. And like I said, back to the main point, Indians tend to be a bit emotional about this goal, which is a good thing and a bad thing if you keep it at the balance. And the main point, you get a lot of people who are doing the same thing around in India. I mean, more than any other country.
Yes. Yeah. And many learners believe that childhood is the best age to learn a language. So, from your experience, do you agree? Do you also train children for spoken English?
Yeah, I teach people from all age groups, and I would generally agree. Again, I generally agree with the fact, it is a fact actually, that you have more fluid intelligence below the age of 16. That's the thing. Not everything in your mind is crystallized at a time. After that, things start to crystallize, things start to shape up. But the thing about how our brain functions is that it is highly plastic. The
Mm.
neuroplasticity, we don't talk about it enough, but it is highly associated with language learning. Our brain is constantly evolving. Yeah. It's never
Yeah.
like completely made up. It's never stagnant. It keeps growing. So, yes, if you start early, you're probably going to have an edge. But even if you're starting late, it's never too late. Just know that. You know what I'm saying? Compared to a kid, maybe you're going to have to repeat something two more times to make it stick to your mind, but it is going to stick if you repeat it. And also, the kid would also have to repeat it, maybe fewer times. That's the difference, that's all.
Yes, when you are a kid, you don't understand the word struggle. You're just learning it for fun and you're not very serious or you're not very scared of making mistakes or what if they laugh, what if they judge. I think these kind of sentiments are lesser when you're a kid. As you grow up, I think they become more powerful. And I think it requires more time for you, time and patience for you to learn anything, not only language. Whatever you learn in childhood, I think that's the best age. So I agree with it as well.
No, 100%. But you know what, like a point to add here is let's say there's an Indian kid born in your
Mhm.
state because I teach somebody from your state. Now they live in London and he's only 8 years old. And sometimes I feel like he feels alienated in his class because when
Okay.
he got to London, he didn't speak a word of English. Yeah, that was his situation. Now he's like 8. Yeah, he's 8. But when he just came to London, he was 5, I guess, and he would struggle with English a lot. And I asked him the same questions just to check if there's a difference in the perspective of a kid versus an adult. And it's not much difference, ma'am. It's not much difference. You know what I'm saying? When you really get bullied, when you really get pigeonholed or cornered, you get to have the same emotions as adults. But the fun part is that for kids, everything is fun and games. They can forget about it easier. They can
Yes.
move on from it. And if only they get the right guidance, they would be able to move on from it like completely. You know what I'm saying?
Easier to get over as a kid. So I totally get you.
Yeah.
Okay. So if a learner has just 20 minutes a day, how should they use it to improve spoken English? What do you recommend?
Yeah, that is a very tight question. 20 minutes only. I believe
Yes.
like everybody can have more than 20 minutes. My ideal, time is 45. I want
Mhm.
people to like devote 45 because I don't know, for 45 for some people could be a lot, but most people are like, I'm so motivated, I'm gonna put in 4 hours. What do you say? And I say, stop. No, you're not going to give 4 hours because that is not you. That is your motivation speaking. And the thing about motivation is that it dries up very quickly.
It
You should
does.
instead focus on being disciplined. But to back to your question, you're saying 20 minutes. If you only have 20 minutes, let's alternate. Yeah? Do reading, do listening, do speaking alternatively. Okay? So like use it like a cycle. One day you're going to read, the other day you're going to listen to something. The next day, you're going to speak to yourself if you don't have anybody else to be your speaking buddy. That is what I recommend.
Oh, okay. Definitely. Not do everything on the same day, like 5 minutes of reading, 5 minutes of listening. No, but you recommend it alternate because it's the same thing that happens with any skill. If you want to get fit or you're just starting your exercise routine, if you go to a coach, they're going to tell you the same thing. Today you do your lower body, next day you do your chest, next day you do this. So that is how they change. And I think you're recommending the same.
Yeah. That is the perfect analogy. But when you say break up the time, how are you going to break up 20 minutes? 5 minutes of listening? What were you going to listen to? An ad? Don't listen to ads for learning English is my thing. You know what I'm saying? You at least need to give it 20 minutes. And also, more is not more when it comes to learning English. This is a trap that many people tend to fall in. It's like, I'm going to put in 5 hours every single day. There is this principle wherein the more you do, the less you get. You know what I'm saying? The law of
Mhm.
marginal returns. It's not like
Mm.
more is more always, it's not like that. But then it depends how much concentration you bring to the table, how
Yes.
much interest you bring to the table. Is your mind focused on this one thing or not? If it's not, if all of these things are not there, then you're not going to learn as well as you do when these things are present. Do you know what I mean?
I think consistency matters more than, whatever. You have to be consistent. Even 20 minutes a day, fine, but do it every day. Not like 5 hours one day in a week. I don't think that works out.
100%.
Okay. So, what habits separate fast English learners from slow learners, regardless of age, culture, or country?
What habits, like
Yes.
what is the fast road to English? Yeah.
Yeah,
What is
yeah,
the
you
fast
can
road
put
to
it that way.
English? Yeah. I mean, how do you find the fast road to English? That is a mystery to me still. But I
Yes,
do
because
understand where your question is coming from.
some people pick up really fast and they start speaking, or maybe they pick up things faster compared to other people. So they're slow learners and then they are fast learners as well. So, what are the habits? Have you noticed any patterns or habits?
Yeah. Now, like I said, we discussed research, self-assessment. Yeah, I'm going to add awareness to that. That would be like the perfect combination, the perfect set of traits that you would find in a fast learner who's found the fast road to success or fluency versus people who are like, okay, I'm going to treat this journey like a school year. You treat it like a school year, you get the same kind of results. You know what I mean? You got to let English become part of your life. And it's easy, it's not hard at all. Until last year, I was learning Spanish very, very seriously. I would put in the time that my teacher asked me to. That's when I realized that learning English is so easy in India and learning Spanish is so difficult. I had like zero resources, zero people to even have, a primary kind of interaction with. Nobody would even know what hi is in Spanish. Do you know what I mean? So with English, that is not the case. And it's always better to look at the brighter side of the thing. You know what I mean? But to your question, habits do differentiate us. And like I
Mhm.
said, if you are more aware of English, you keep that in mind. I mean, you think about it whenever you have 5 minutes on hand, instead of pulling out your phone, how about you have a conversation with yourself internally or externally? That doesn't matter. Yeah. When you do that, you understand better, you respond better in lessons, and you get the most benefits. And when you don't do that, like I said, the analogy of seeing your journey like a school year, then it's like you're not gonna enjoy the process and you're not gonna enjoy the results either.
Yes, you're also learning Spanish. So, is there any specific reason, or you like learning languages? Are you a polyglot?
I mean, in India, everyone's a polyglot. Yeah. I do speak three languages. The third one's not so clear, but I do speak three languages, close to three languages, let's say. Yeah, two and a half. Spanish would have been the other language, but I'm not doing it now, so I kind of quit. And the reason I was learning it, I was doing it for funsies. I mean, yeah, I consider myself to be a language person. I was just testing myself a little bit. And then I was learning from a friend, so we just had some extra talking time. That was one of the
Okay.
reasons too.
All right. Okay. So, now coming to the main question, do accents really matter, or is fluency more important in real life communication?
No, you've given me a really easy choice this time. Fluency is 100% more important than any kind of accent of any sort, in my opinion. Yeah. I mean, when you say accent, what do you mean? Is it about articulation? Is it about neutralization? Or is it about having an American or British accent, right? I mean, you
Yes.
can branch out into the thought of it. There's so many things to consider, but fluency is just one thing. Fluency, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
is having the courage to be able to tear away challenges and fears. When you're fluent, you would have the confidence to go out and tear away the things that scare you. You know what I mean? For somebody who's just beginning, for them, a simple conversation could be scary.
Yes.
But once you keep doing it, yeah, you gain a certain level of fluency. That's when you'd be like, okay, this is done, on to the next one. Talking about deeper subjects, on to the next one. Becoming a public speaker or debater, on to the next one. And I think like this is the ladder that everyone should set for themselves. We have this standard assessment tests going from AO to C2. That is really good considering it makes the job very easy, but
Mm.
then it is about being brave. So if you're brave enough, you could be fluent, and accent doesn't matter. If you're fluent, you would know how to convey your thoughts in a way that is understandable to the other person. And that is the whole purpose of communication, right? Helping people
Yes.
understand what you are trying to say, conveying your ideas, and enjoying it alongside.
Yes. Good to hear that from you. Okay. Do learners feel more comfortable or less intimidated when their teacher also speaks English with a foreign accent? Why do you think it is?
Now, you're asking like, do people feel
Feel
intimidated in
more
classes?
comfortable with you during the classes, or they feel intimidated because of your accent? Maybe we
Oh,
are
it's a
talking
question
about
for
English.
me. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
I mean, I don't see it on their faces, right? I don't see like I don't think anybody is intimidated by me or anything like that. At the start, some people, because they're paying money, right? They're gonna be
Yes.
very clear with you. Like, I have difficulty understanding your accent. How are we going to communicate? I mean, I can water down my accent, I can speak like an Indian still, but my pronunciation sometimes unconsciously tends to slip because I've learned a lot of American pronunciation as well. And I've learned the American English all in all. Even though I wouldn't say that my accent is 100% American, it also kind of keeps changing shape. Yeah. You listen to me 2 months on, I would sound a little different. So I let it grow and evolve. And that's how I enjoy listening to myself. But for my students, I don't think they're intimidated by my accent. Nobody's ever told me, one. Number two, I don't read it on their faces. And but I do understand where this question is coming from because people could be a bit intimidated,
Yes.
considering like, oh, I need to match her accent or I need
Mm.
to match her style of speaking. But that shouldn't be a thing in your mind. What you should be thinking in a conversation is to convey your message clearly. And you know what? Even more important is bringing out the original ideas. In today's time, I think like there's a lot of ideas floating around and
Mhm.
people just tend to swipe away the same ideas. Yeah. Instead of me thinking about something deeply so I can fish for my own ideas, I'm just going to go out there and mirror or echo someone else's views. So that's something that we need to work on. And I guess people are doing that, at least in my lessons, they're doing so they're not intimidated.
That's great to hear. So, have you personally faced any kind of judgment because of your accent? Because people do that often. So, I'm not sure whether you have faced
Yeah.
that kind of judgment or no. If yes, how did you overcome it?
I feel like this is the only time, now is the only time in my life where I do get some salty comments about my accent. I've never gotten any salty comments about my accent before in
Mhm.
school or in college, but salty comments as in what? As in, accent is not so important. I never said accent is important. I never said speak like me, acquire an American accent. I don't advocate for it. But still, people, I guess, they tend to confuse emotions. They tend to confuse ideas sometimes. And that is where this judgment comes from. But
Mhm.
then I believe there's free will in the world, and like you're allowed to free speech, free will, you're allowed to say whatever you want to say, as long as you keep it respectful. Do you know what I mean? So I do get some judgment to your answer. I do get some judgment sometimes. As in people have questions. Why this accent?
Yes.
And that, like you should, I told you this is my story. If you really want to know the answer, listen to my story. I got started
Yes.
with Americans. That was a jump start. I mean, I cannot go back and erase it. And then, yes, I've consciously, decisively kept it and I polish it. You know what I'm saying?
People judge way too earlier. They do not know the backstory why you're doing it. But people assume that it is out of impressing people. So that is what is the notion of people that when you speak in an accent, people are going to get impressed with you. That is why they try deliberately to speak in a fake accent or they try to copy natives. So that is the notion people have. But your story is different. You have been doing the accent training since you were a kid, and that's how you learned English. So every person has a different perspective. And I think people judge quickly. That is why the comments are coming in that way, I guess.
No, you're actually right about that. And the thing about accent, because you said that people speak with a fake accent, I mean, I see it a bit differently. When you start, of course, it's going to sound like you're aping instead of
Mm-hmm.
copying. It wouldn't even
Mm-hmm.
sound like you're copying or faking. It sounds like aping, which is not a good thing. And it wouldn't sound good. That is the honest truth. When you start, you wouldn't sound as good. But then, if you really want to learn the accent, you're going to have to get through that phase where you
Mm.
sound fake and where you sound like you're copying. And if you're hesitant to speak to other people in this new accent that you desire to acquire, speak to yourself. Yeah. That's how I got through this initial phase. I spoke to myself. I'm not sure how many hours I've completed, ma'am. You know what I'm saying? Endless hours of self-talk, endless. And whenever I speak to myself, I speak like this. Even right now, if you were not in front of me, yeah, I could hide you and I could still speak this way. So I've gotten really, really comfortable with myself. So yeah, you can use your own service for perfecting your accent and you don't have to sound like you're using a fake accent. It gets better.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, how can learners improve pronunciation without feeling insecure or ashamed about their accent? Because there are two different things, pronunciation and accent. So, what do you recommend?
I mean, checking the pronunciation
How to
every single
improve their
time you have.
pronunciation? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, checking the pronunciation of each and every word that confuses them. Each and every word. It could be, as simple as is, says, was,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even
Yes.
these words are quite commonly mispronounced. That is a thing. But then my thing is that don't assume any pressure on yourself. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has slip ups,
Yes.
like the mistakes that they don't realize they're making in conversations. I listen to a lot of speakers who are amazing speakers, who are like very experienced, and even they make mistakes. Sometimes they realize it, sometimes they don't. So, yes, the best way to do it is to always do it. Whenever you come across a word, check the pronunciation. Most people just check the meaning of the new word or phrase that they
Yes.
find. I mean, that's incomplete work. Don't leave it at that. You know what I'm saying? Check the pronunciation, and you also have this feature on the first page of Google actually where you can practice it. You
Yes.
have that feature for most words. You can try that, and you might have to come back because there are some words that can be very tricky to pronounce. Yeah. I remember there were some words that I had to pronounce like 20 times in a row to
Mhm.
really get the intonation of the word. If it's like a multi-syllable word, you have intonation. You're like, you go up and down.
Yes.
You don't get the intonation right, you wouldn't sound good. So for those things, you just have to be ready to really check the pronunciation and get there, get to the right pronunciation. You're going to have to repeat it. So that's my number one piece of advice. Check the pronunciation. Easiest, fastest, most effective way. Number two, listen to good pronunciation. At this
Mm-hmm.
point, I've created this, English air around me. I breathe
Okay.
English air. That is the honest truth. I don't speak to my parents in English. I don't speak to my friends in English. Not a word of English I've spoken to my friends or my family ever in my life. But I have this air of English, envelope of English around me because I do stuff in English. I give English lessons, first of all. I read in English. I listen to English content. I speak to myself in English. And like a side effect of that is that I sometimes even find myself praying in English, which I don't want, which I immediately like cut off, like, no, no, there has to be some red lines, and that is my red line. I'm not going to pray in English. But you can do it. It's not
Yes.
hard at all. You know what I'm saying?
True. Like as you formally mentioned that awareness is important, so once you're aware what you're doing wrong, maybe pronunciation, you should be aware of what you're mispronouncing. So then I think that awareness creates the strength for you to go ahead, look for the right pronunciation, keep practicing it. So I think practice is an answer to most of it. And another question is how to get rid of MTI. Would you recommend the same thing, like keep improving your pronunciation, or would you recommend tongue twisters or something else?
No, this is a bit different, right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, with the pronunciation stuff, the reason you're mispronouncing things is because you must have heard the right pronunciation somewhere, right? But with
Right.
the MTI thing, most people do not know that they have MTI or what words carry their MTI, to be
Mm-hmm.
fair. If that is the situation, you cannot locate your own mistakes, then you're gonna need an expert to diagnose the problem for you. I mean, this part doesn't seem very flexible to me. There's no two ways about it. For most people, this is what I recommend. If you feel like you have this gut feeling that I speak with a mother tongue influence, but you do not know what exactly it is or how to solve it, talk to an English teacher, talk to an accent coach or trainer. I mean, a few
Mm-hmm.
sessions, and they can flag everything for you, and then you can start working on the same points. So for that, I do recommend mm, scheduling some appointments with an expert.
Definitely, yes. Okay, so what is one truth about learning English that textbooks never say, but learners really need to hear?
One truth the textbook never say. Okay, very interesting. I would say the one truth about learning English is that, again, it's about courage. It is not so
Mm.
much about grammar or your
Yes,
vocabulary or your fancy accent. I mean, all of those things are there, but they can ditch you. You know what I'm saying?
yes.
You could be in a conversation with tons and tons of vocabulary and nothing would be landing. What would you do then? Courage is the biggest virtue, as Socrates said. So I believe in that. I believe in courage. You have to be courageous enough to take the first step and to keep taking the next steps forward. Like I said, you have to unlock levels, like tear away fears. Unless you decide that I have to, be stronger mentally to get this done with, you're not going to be able to do it. You can do like tons and tons of lessons with somebody. take courses and stuff like that, those things will make you feel confident in that own space. Outside, you would have to be courageous. So it is about courage. Public speaking is about courage.
Yes.
Debating is about courage. Just coming out and doing anything in the world is about courage, and we don't talk about it enough. Yeah.
Definitely. Spoken English is not only about technicalities, it's about more about psychological. That's why you feel fear and a lot of other things. You feel things before speaking English, right? So I think along with technical, it's also psychological. But how did you get rid of that fear? Because being an Indian and you have to train native speakers, so were you always courageous and ready to do it? Or how did you overcome the hesitation? Or how do you muster the courage to do that?
No, the first step is really simple. You just tell yourself that you're going to do it. You're going to break a pattern. Okay. That is the first step. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's very simple on paper, not so hard when you
Yeah.
do it, and not so easy when you do it. Very simple on paper. Tell yourself you're going to do it. Break a pattern. Yeah. Doing it is hard. My thing is that I just told myself a lot of lies, I think. You know what I'm saying? I'm a very good storyteller for the world and for myself. And when you research the subject of confidence, it is about telling yourself a bunch of stories. Keep telling yourself a bunch of stories and enact accordingly a little bit. Even a little bit of action that is consistent with the stories you're telling yourself would create a big difference. That is a thing. And I don't know if you know about the book Sapiens.
Mhm.
Harari talks about this thing about telling stories. Human beings love telling stories. We believe in stories. Yeah. Most
Mhm.
of the things that we believe about the world and people around us are stories, but we never get deep into it. And so I believe that it is a powerful tool. You have to tell yourself good things. You have to keep priming yourself, right? Because there's like socialization happening outside. Everybody is priming you for something. So you
Mhm.
can prime yourself for great performances. And I guess I've done that really well. I tell myself a lot of stories, and I also act according to the words, every now and then. So that kind of keeps the balance. And my starting point, like I said, was I decided that I was going to take the step. That was a starting point.
Great. Okay, one last question. What message would you like to give learners who feel they are not good enough because of their English or accent?
Yeah. So if you feel like you're inadequate, you're not good enough because you're not able to communicate as well as others, this is a
Mhm.
very real feeling, first of all. I'm not going to try
Yes.
to discount or disregard, like, oh, dismiss it, nothing like that. Yeah, this is a very real feeling. I mean, I've had this feeling as well, and I meet a lot of people, I talk to a lot of people who carry this emotion, this heaviness in their heart. So, how do you overcome it? There is a literal blueprint that I keep in mind. Yeah.
Mhm.
First of all, like I said, research the stuff. Yeah. Get to know yourself, get to know your problems. Second, be open. Yeah. And third, something that I haven't mentioned yet, learn about some frameworks to speak. Because when you follow certain frameworks, delivering a message becomes so much more easy, so much more easy. It is just a bowl that you're going to serve your answer in. So if you have difficulty getting your message across and that makes you feel insufficient, you need to know about some frameworks. Everybody
Mhm.
uses frameworks to communicate effectively, and that's the reason they don't sound haphazard, right? That's there. Aside from that, like I said, you got to keep your self-talk positive. This is a very
Mhm.
popular line online these days. Keep your
Yes.
self-talk positive, and I believe in that.
Mhm.
And yeah, you're actually going to have to do real work to overcome this feeling of inadequacy or not being good enough. So yeah, real work with the three steps that I said. Number one is research, assess yourself. Number two is being more open in this journey. Number three would be repetition. Four would be using certain frameworks to easily communicate. That would help you, organize your ideas, compose your speech better, and also for the other person to comprehend. I mean, it's a win-win. What else do you want?
Yes, I'm sure people will get benefit out of whatever advice you have given them. So, is there anything else you would like to add to the session? Sorry, I didn't give you any time to ask me any questions that you wanted to. We are running out of time and we have 5 minutes on hand. So, is there anything else you would like to add?
I'm just gonna ask everybody listening to this to take action after this. I
Mm.
just don't want you to listen to this, information, get this into one ear and take it out the other. Don't do that because we all tend to do it. It's not upon you, it's upon all of us. Take action. If you feel like, uh, me, like I or ma'am, we're able to inspire some kind of confidence in you, it should also inspire some efforts. So, yeah, after this lesson, just plan out the next thing that you're going to do. It could be listening to a video or reading a book or talking to yourself. Any of this. You know what I'm saying? Take the step.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining. Honestly, I wasn't expecting a reply from your end, but you were quick enough and you responded, and we are having this session today. So, thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Really appreciate it.
Bye bye. Have a good day.
You too.